Hello and welcome to How to Win in Court Without a Liar. I'm your host, Dave Horowitz. So I want to wish you all a happy new year. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Hope everybody's enjoying their weekend. Today I am going to be speaking about offense, defense, or sitting on the fence, which is not a good thing to be doing. Not for very long anyway. I like to start off with a definition of offense. Everybody's heard the term the best offense is a good, or the best defense is a good offense, and the word offense, going into the definition, is an illegal act or a breach of law. Its root is to strike against or attack. It's synonymous with breach, crime, debt, sin, trespass, or violate. So when you're on the offense, or if you're being offensive, by definition, you are committing an illegal act or a breach of law. You're striking against or attacking someone. Basically, you're breaching someone else's space. It's a crime. It says debt, sin, trespass, or violate. So, as that pertains to court, when you're brought into court for an offense, okay, it's breaking of their statutes, code, or an actual a crime. Okay, an offense is a crime, and a crime needs a victim. When you go into court, it'll say the paperwork will say the state of whatever state you're in versus your all caps name as the defendants. So to defend or defense is resisting an attack, innocence, guiltlessness, fortify, deterrent, safeguard. A means to protect yourself from an attack, declaration, testimony, shield, wall, ward, or repel. Okay? So you're repelling an attack. You are shielding yourself from an attack. It says declaration, and we'll go into that, and testimony. Okay? So defense, you're resisting an attack. It says innocence. Okay? When you're on the offense, you're committing a crime. Kind of goes along with the non-aggression principle. Do no harm. Okay? Does not mean to not defend yourself. It just is don't initiate harm on anyone else, on their person or their property. When you go into court and it says the state of versus your all caps name, they are, by definition, breaching the law. They're striking out against you, attacking you, committing a crime, debt, sin, trespass, or violating you. So when you're being offended, they are basically declaring war against you. It's a fight. Okay? People hire a lawyer a lot of times because they're afraid to stand up for themselves in a courtroom. Just going into a courtroom or having to go to the court or the police station makes people afraid, and it shouldn't. Half the battle, I'd say probably closer to 80 or 90% of the battle, is knowing who you are, knowing what authority you walk in. putting yourself in a place of authority. Okay, so when you're the best defense is a good offense. Okay, it's preemptive. You want to be positioning yourself long before neck deep in legal problems, and setting up private trust, staying on the private side, not dealing with the public, gives you a separation. Okay, it's like putting a fence between. Okay, the First Amendment says that talks about a separation of church and state. Okay, not making rules up for the church, the state making rules up for the church. Church is separate from the state. The church is private unless it's chartered by the state. But when you are private, you are not in the public. Okay, you're opposed to the public, but you are setting yourself up a defense. You're putting a wall or a hedge against around your assets, as well as defining the situs or the jurisdiction that that you can be brought into by the public. Eminent domain. Okay. Eminent domain is when the public takes property from an owner. Okay, they are required to compensate the owner. So the law says the public cannot take the private anything that's private for public use without compensation to the owner. Okay, so they can't just come into the private and take or initiate debt. They can't come onto private property without a warrant or an invitation. Okay, so you can't go into the private. Okay, the public cannot go into the private and contract with the private. It's got to be either on the private side or on the public side. You don't want to go into the public side to contract. Okay, and contracting is how you stay. It's the main way of staying in the private, and it's absolutely the way that they try to make you a party to the public. When you register something or you apply for something, some benefit, okay, you're contracting with the public, and it's not a smart thing to do. Okay, there's a maxim of law that says that he who bears, he who enjoys the benefit bears the burden. Okay, so if you're going to enjoy the benefits, then you are going to carry a burden, a debt, okay, to the public. If you are not managing, or if you're not managing your straw man on the private side, okay. Now the straw man is a dead entity, just like any other corporate charter from the government. Corporation, partnership, LLC, C Corp, S Corp, even statutory trusts. They are all chartered by the government, property of the government, chartered or authored by the government, and they hold legal title to all of it. All of it. Anything you register or apply for, they authored those documents, they authored those contracts, they have the authority over those, and they make up the rules, administrative rules. That's what you're going into the courtroom dealing with, are rules based on contracts. Now, the best defense is the best defense is a good offense. Okay. preemptively setting yourself up in a private trust on the private side, not registering. It's not required. Registration is not required. And if your private meets the public, and the public is trying to contract with you or the private side, the trust that you're overseeing, then you are providing them notice. You didn't ask their permission. You did not get a license. You're not getting chartered, so there's no requirements there. When you go and you set up your trust estate, you're protecting your assets. You're defending your assets. This is a preemptive defense. Just like when you build a house and you put a fence around your property. Okay, you've got multiple lines of defense. Okay, the fence is a defensive mechanism. The front door, all the doors are defensive mechanisms. The walls of your house is a defensive mechanism. You don't want to, at the last minute it's not going to work, okay, to try and do that while you're under an attack, okay? It's got to be preemptive. You've got to put yourself in a position of being protected. When it comes to the courts, you get pulled over and you get into trouble or whatever happens that they bring you in, they're attacking you, okay, the state of versus your straw man, your public entity, okay. If that public entity, your straw man, is not indentured to your private side, and that the state is not notified that, hey, this is no longer your asset, it is a debt. It's no longer your debtor, your slave, but it is a debtor and a slave to the private side that you've created. Now you're starting to protect yourself. Okay, you're setting up a defense. Okay, you're rescinding contracts. You are not asking for permission for things. Okay, you keep your life private. There's no reason. Okay, marriage. Okay, a husband and a wife. And if you ask for a license from the state, you're begging permission for their interference. Okay? There's no reason to involve a third-party interloper into your private business. Okay? Whether that's your family heirlooms and your family assets, your business. Okay? If you're running a business, you should be doing that from the private side. For years, a lot of years, I helped people set up corporations, corporate structures that were all chartered by the state, okay, whichever state, whether it be Nevada or Wyoming or Montana or New York or Maryland, Delaware, any of these, these were all charters from the government. And anybody that has a corporation, LLC, or some chartered corporation, including your straw man, you have a third party in your business. Okay, they tax you, they take from you. They're taking 20, 30, 50% of whatever you make. Okay, because you've invited them into that relationship. Private corporation or private trusts have protections from those things. Okay, your contracts, any contracts. If you're going to sign a contract, make sure it's it benefits you. And the best contracts are win-win. You'll never get that from the public. Not only are they not win-win, there's no full disclosure, okay? You don't even have, most people don't even understand or recognize that they've been joined by contracts, all kinds of contracts. whether that be for welfare benefits or unemployment or a job, any job that you use that Social Security number for, okay? If you do not have, all of these things, they're taking from that, okay? They're taking the value from those entities, okay, that belong to them. They're chartered by them. They're created by them. On the private side, you're not doing that. All your contracts are between the parties that are supposed to be involved in the contract, okay? If you've got a marriage contract license from the state, okay, you have to go and ask them permission to do anything. You need to ask them permission for a divorce, okay? If you are divorced, the product of your marriage, because it is a corporation, the product of your marriage or products of your marriage, any assets and any children, all are belonging to the state. And they are going to, legal title belongs to the estate or to the state, okay? So when you go for that divorce and try to get rid of that contract, you are being told what you can and can't do. The courts and these judges they're all for profit, are telling you exactly what you have to do, who gets what, when, who, what, where, when, and how. Okay, and it's costing you a fortune. It costs you to get the license. It costs you a lot more to get out of that contract.